In a galaxy far, far away, there was a prince who believed in an outside force, and this force threatened Christianity on Earth. We've been discussing over the last few weeks the effect of culture and the religious mindset. Why do they go head to head? And we're going to dive into it a little more again today. I think back, and I actually heard this on a podcast where they were reviewing the movie Star Wars, doing a discussion over it, how it was when it came out. Well, almost 50 years ago. 48, 47, something like that.
Like my age. When did it come out? In 77?
Yeah, so 48 years ago.
Funny that you couldn't figure out the day or the years.
I didn't associate that until late in the game. So off my ass. All right. Mm-hmm. But one of the hosts on the show was talking about how his religious family would not allow the family to watch Star Wars because it was taken away from the message of Jesus Christ. This demonic...
Do I know this person?
No, this was a podcast.
This is a podcast. Yeah. Sorry. Yeah.
The demonic force of the Force was stealing away from the power of Jesus. Why is it that everything is a threat to Christianity? Let's get into some of the nuts and bolts of this. Why do they fight against so many cultural things? Why do they fight against the scales being removed and information coming in? They fight against education. They want to control it, have their own schools, decide what is taught in schools. They fight against what's on TV. They want to ban certain shows and limit children from seeing certain imagery and things and disguise it in the name of safety, when a lot of stuff that they hide isn't dangerous for kids at all. It's just an alternative view. Why do they want to keep burning books when their book is just as bad as anything else? It has death, unaliving people, essaying people, lying, cheating, stealing, incest, all sorts of stuff that they would find illicit and unredeemable. But because it's ordained by them and that's what they want to speak from, it's fine. But if that appears in any sort of way or some loose reference of any sort of it in culture, then it's demonic. So let's dive into it, see why they want to do it, and take a look at the aspect of the attack on culture in general. Why they want to shield, why they want to keep in the bubble. Why don't they want their people to learn? Well, today you will learn on Drop the Stones.
Hi, I'm Candy.
And I'm Dan.
And you're listening to Drop the Stones,
a weekly podcast brought to you by, this week, a new sponsor. We have it here, and here's their ad they wanted me to read. Tired of all the baggage from your old belief system? Introducing Holy Rollaway, trademarked. The first and only storage solution designed specifically for your leftover religious trauma. Whether it's purity rings, WWJD bracelets, or that one study Bible you highlighted into oblivion, we've got room for it. Our patented spiritual compression technology shrinks down your doctrinal delusionment to fit neatly under your bed, right next to the shame you were taught to have about your body. Excuse me. And don't worry about judgment. Our boxes are 100% non-denominational and whisper quiet. So your relatives won't hear a thing, not even Aunt Karen. Act now, we'll throw in a bonus church camp memories incinerator bag. Just toss it in and poof. No more acoustic guitar-induced flashbacks. Holy Rollaway. Because sometimes the only things you want to resurrect is your sense of self. Oh, thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. It's a good sponsor for us. I think some of you might be able to get into that and lock away some of the trauma. Let's talk about some of this trauma. So, over the last few weeks, we've been discussing this attack on culture, this attack on society in general. And let's get into it a little bit here with why they're doing it. I was hearing this podcast, and it just struck me again that, the movie Star Wars, when I got into evangelicalism, it was way past when Star Wars had been released, the original one, the one in 77. Because that would have been, 95, 96? So it had been out 20 years already, and most people accepted it in the culture.
Mm-hmm. Even a lot of Christians.
Yeah. But a lot of them took it as a shout out, a nod to the Christ story.
Or the good and evil, the story of,
Yeah, Luke Skywalker
Christ
being
and
Jesus, and
then
Darth Vader, the devil. And
why is he the father?
Don't worry about it.
Okay.
It was just a loose reference to it.
They just wanted to make it fit because they knew it was a good movie.
Yeah. What it was, I think, is something like your mom has said to you many, many times. Well, the world's just trying to steal Christian ideas and make it their own.
She does think that. Someone told her that, I'm sure.
But the simple fact of the matter is that these stories have been around. Mm-hmm. And honestly, the Christ story has been stolen from other cultures. It's a good story to tell.
And it's even the story of Christ was stolen from the stories before it.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah. It's the story of redemption, the story of...
Yeah, it's a story of good versus evil. That battle, that fight.
But always the good is not what you think and the bad is not what you think. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
In the story of Christ, that's the thing. And it's really just the story of life for yourself. Yeah. That's really what it is. That's why these stories resonate with us.
Yeah.
Even the story of Jesus.
Yeah, exactly. But as I was listening to this podcast, this gentleman on there was talking about, because he's a few years older, so he saw it in the theaters when it was released. And he was talking about his grandma saying, don't watch that movie. You are not going to that movie. It's stealing from us. And it sounds so familiar to a lot of stuff that, that comes out today that we hear of. Don't go to that movie. It's awful. That movie's evil. That's demonic. It's
like they feel like you hear this around Halloween time with the Hocus Pocus. There was a big, which I thought was a really kind of a cute movie. It's
well
a cute
made. Movie. Yeah.
And great actors in it, right? Mm-hmm. But they don't want their kids to watch it because they think that demons, I think they literally think that demons will come through the TV and go into their children.
Some do. Some of the extremists do. If you step back from that extreme a little bit, a lot of them feel that it's glorifying witchcraft. So that
the child will then think witchcraft isn't as evil as they want them to think it.
Desensitize. You know the word I'm trying to say.
It desensitizes them.
I can't speak. Yeah. Mumble mouth tonight. So good luck, folks. But it desensitizes people from witchcraft, which is evil. It's bad. You don't want to be casting spells and all this, which...
That's what using essential oils.
Yeah, it's prayer.
Prayer is kind of a witchcrafty thing. Yeah. I know they're going to say it's not, but it is. And back in the Old Testament, they were like the and the whatever. Those were like almost like a black, what do you call it? That 8-ball that people would shake. Magic 8-ball. It's similar to something like that. It's what we would consider like silly magic.
Honestly, if you were to step back and look at it from an unobjective point of view, prayer and spell casting from sorcery, there's no real difference to it other than who you're assigning the power to.
Which makes all the difference in the world to a Christian.
We're praying to our one true God. They're praying to
the one true, not our one true God, the one true God. That's what they'll say.
Witchcraft might be praying to earth elements.
It's praying to something other than God.
Yeah.
Which is evil.
Yeah. So, but if you stood back and objectively didn't have a belief in you and bias in you, you'd be like,
They're similar practices.
They're no difference. You're just calling what you're praying to different.
You're basically talking to what you cannot see, asking for help or, right? That's really what you're doing. You're talking to the spirit realm in some way.
So with the Star Wars, they were talking about don't go to it because it's stealing, it's taken away, it's introducing a new religion. Mm-hmm. The religion of the Force, the Jedi religion of this all-powerful force that we could tap into and gives us special powers, which is Christianity. But in this case, it was no, you're tapping into it.
Because it's not based on, they're not saying God,
all this, and it's telepathy. And
that's why they're okay with movies like control. Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
Because the author of the actual book was supposedly a Christian, right? Yeah. Probably didn't believe like a lot of like, I think of my dad, probably didn't believe exactly like dad, but yet, and then Christians, as they do, they're notorious for not unifying once they figure out one thing that they disagree on. Oh, yeah. It doesn't take much. They can disagree on a few little things, but they will definitely like split a whole church over something small.
Yeah. And I mean, just they look at it and think it's stealing from their influence. And that's exactly what it is that they're stealing from their influence. But they don't want people to get swayed away from it. And what another guy on this episode said, this was when his statement in his big hot take was, this is when people started stepping away from organized religion, is when Star Wars came out. Because it gave people a sense of something greater. You really didn't, I mean, you had 2001.
A sense of like something within them that was greater, maybe?
You were thinking about the universe, but then you saw this and you had this, it was a massive thing. There wasn't, so when movies were released, like when you had Gone with the Wind, which was a huge movie back in the 40s, it would go to a few select towns and be released there.
Yeah, yeah.
Then it'd have like a 3-week run, 5-week run, pack up, leave that town and go to a different town. Then have a 5-week run there.
And hope that the people are spreading the word.
So it would spread throughout the country over these weekly segments as it picked up from here and moved over to here. They moved the films over and sent it here. So a movie would be released over 4 or 5 years nationwide.
Oh, wow.
So it took a longer time.
I mean, yeah.
This was the first one where they actually said, we're going to put it in thousands of theaters and release it at the same time.
Oh,
and
really?
Everything. So it became a national kind of phenomenon when they saw it. And with the special effects and everything else that went into it, the imagination of Lucas and everything else with the aliens and all that he created.
The story, all of it together, the actors, they had good actors.
People were clamoring for it and enjoying it a lot, but it was nationwide. And with that, it kind of opened up this idea. People started thinking that what if these other galaxies have stuff out there? Is there something else?
So before there wasn't really a whole lot of thought necessarily, according to this podcaster, of like aliens or just it was just like there's a supreme being in us. But now all of a sudden, maybe there's just a lot of different worlds. Brings in this thought, right?
Yes. The possibility of other life out there. And, what do Christians do with the idea of aliens? And
they don't like that idea for some reason.
Because how does that affect their theology?
Yeah, because you'll say, like, did Jesus die for them? And they'll be like...
And with the Christians that we know that are pushing rapture and all this, is it just 4 corners of this globe? Or if there's aliens out there, do we have to go to these other alien planets and witness to them about our God? And then he'll come back, which would put that off
when he says
millennia.
Spread to the whole world, yeah.
Yeah.
Or then it's like, did Jesus die for them? Or was it just us? No, are we just the ones who messed up? I don't know. Like, I don't know how a Christian... I remember asking some of these kinds of questions, but I don't remember my parents really entertaining the thought much. So it was just kind of like... Yeah, no, there's probably... like, you really were taught that there wasn't.
And that was this guy's theory, that it started getting people open their eyes. And this is truly what I think the Christians fear. And you had stuff like when Han Solo in there had a quote when he was talking to Luke and Obi-Wan was teaching him the Force. He said, "Kid, I've flown from one side of the galaxy to the other. I've seen a lot of strange stuff, but I've never seen anything to make me believe there's one all-powerful force controlling everything. There's no mystical energy field that controls my destiny." So kind of an agnostic, one of the heroes of the movie is an absolute agnostic.
Mm-hmm. That's going to make Christians not like it,
so
for
they're
sure.
not going to like that. They're going to hate it
Especially
for that,
if he's a likable guy, and he was.
Yeah. Oh, he was, yeah.
Is that what made him famous, Harrison Ford? Was that his big break?
Trying to think. It might have been his. I know he was in a movie or two before that, but I think that was big one. And then shortly after that, he started at E.M. Jones.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what launched him into even bigger stuff. So, yeah. But I think that's the meat of the matter here. And the meat of the matter of this culture versus church is that the church hates it when culture has an influence on people. And culture has a major influence on people in all the arts, just in life in general. When you get into culture, it's going to make you question a lot of what you believe.
Yeah.
And that's why they want to fight it.
But it also makes things interesting.
When you see these cultural phenomenons coming around, a lot of times, all of a sudden you start hearing the Christians start ramping up. So you mentioned the Hocus Pocus 2 that came out a couple years ago. You remember all the TikToks coming across about, do not go see this movie. It's demonic. They are casting spells. When Harry Potter was a huge cultural influence on kids.
They hated Harry Potter.
Do not go see that movie.
But Lord of the Rings around the same time was okay.
Yeah, but Harry Potter was casting actual spells. This isn't made up stuff. So when your kid's reading this out loud, he's actually casting a spell, unbeknownst to him, and he's making this come true and happen, which is the plot of a lot of horror movies of people reading the incantations in a found book somewhere, and all of a sudden they've released this demonic entity on the world. It's like, doesn't there have to be some sort of intent behind it too? Of I don't know and understand what I'm reading. Oh no!
Yeah, they just think that you just opened the door because the demons are just listening for those syllables to come out your mouth.
Yeah. So they were projecting that on Harry Potter. I mean, all these cultural relevance things. We're hitting a lot of movie stuff here, but Christians come out because they see, like with Harry Potter, what happened. All of a sudden, a bunch of kids started reading again.
Yeah, a lot of
kids
were
reading the Bible. They were reading Harry Potter.
That's probably what makes them so mad, too.
So, my nephew, who's probably, 35, 36 now?
Probably somewhere around there.
He was huge into Harry Potter. That came out right in his prime young age. And that made him into a voracious reader for a while.
I would say he probably still reads.
Yeah. And he loved that series. And my parents loved it because he was actually reading books, and not just playing video games.
We were deep in fundamentalism with our children when the books were coming out.
It's good that he's reading, but he's reading that trash. That's dangerous. Oh, no. And we would critique the books, like, oh, this is horrible writing. It's no good. It's so on the nose. The purple dog. Oh, geez, come on. You can be a little more illiterate with that, or alliteration on
illiterate.
That. Yeah, sorry. Again, mumble mouth. The wires are crossed. But they were fighting against that. Even though this was a good movement in our country, kids were starting to read. But what was happening? Kids were starting to read.
And then they start to think outside of the Bible.
If kids start reading their books and they get into reading, when they get older, they're going to read even more.
Mm-hmm.
And then they're going to read other stuff. And it's not the Bible. Because I tried reading through the Bible so many times and would get into, and my
Numbers,
whole thing,
Leviticus.
The way my mind is made up is you start at the beginning and you read it left to right all the way to the end. You cannot jump from here to Acts and this and get into the fun stuff. And then you get into Leviticus and Numbers. You're like, oh, dear God, this is awful.
Yeah, that was brutal. I had times where I would skip it. And then there's a couple times I'm like, I probably only read through Leviticus and Numbers once. I'd probably even skipped some of it still. But I was trying to read through it, but I was like, maybe there's something good hidden in here.
There we go. We found it. The reason why Candy left the faith. She never read the complete Bible, cover to
Leviticus
cover.
and Numbers, there's probably sections I skipped. I don't know.
But
that's it. That's what'll do it for you.
But that's the fear that the church has, is that these people are going to get information.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to get education.
Get some knowledge somewhere.
That's not controlled by them.
Mm-hmm.
If people can read and read freely and have comprehension of what they read and can think about what they read and reason it out,
they start to develop critical thinking skills.
Yeah.
If it's never challenged, you will not develop critical. They start when you're young, I'm sure, and then they get stunted because you're not allowed to think. If you do start to, what happens as you're growing up, when I was growing up evangelical, I would ask questions and then it would get shut down very quickly. Like the time when I mentioned that my teacher was teaching evolution in public school, right? It was my last year of public school, maybe 5th grade. I went through 6th grade, but and my dad hears that and he's just like, that's not true. Yeah. So right then I was not able to question or anything. He was just like, that's not true. End of story.
And gave you no answers or reason or anything. Just stop.
Or just like God did it. Or that's not what the Bible says or something like that. So I couldn't explore it to see where the truth was. And I just then, every time my teacher taught, now I'm all of a sudden distrustful of her. Why is she lying to me? Why is she telling us lies?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Because my dad had told me it was a lie and I believed him.
And that's a perfect example of this battle on culture, is that we want to have all the influence. And the way to fight against that control is to learn how to get your own influence in the world, which is by reading and submerging yourself into culture, watching movies, watching TV, reading books, reading articles.
How would your faith, even in what you believe, ever get tested? You're told to test your faith. Like, go out and test it. See if it holds up. If you believe that the earth is, it was made in 6,000 or 6 days, then there should be evidence of that, right? So find the evidence.
It was made in 6,006 days.
It's 6 days. You know what I'm saying? Like if you think it's not old, then, and then when you have challenges that come against it, what are the answers to those? Why do we see stars that are billions of light years away? And this is how they explain that kind of stuff. They'll just say, God stretched out the light. He sped up the speed of light first and then slowed it down and it's stayed steady since. Or that's the one they use for the lights. Just stuff like that. You can go on Answers in Genesis and they'll give you ridiculous answers for all this stuff so that you don't, and then people just go, oh, that sounds good enough. They don't want to do the hard work of researching. It plays out all over the place. Like they'll pass on information and it's like, did you do your research? Yeah, they probably just typed in Google. First thing that came up, if it supported what they said because of the way they worded it or whatever. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's in there. It's up there. Yeah. They don't care what the source was. Yeah. I'm like, so many people do not know how to research. They think they've researched something when they haven't. They're just lazy when it comes to thinking. Christianity, in my opinion, or evangelical Christianity, I'm not going to say all Christianity, but evangelical Christianity just makes you so lazy in thinking. It does. Yeah, you're
spoon-fed.
And you can't enjoy art. Like the movies we've been talking about. Those are art forms.
Yeah.
And instead, they have to try to mimic it, and it's a copy.
Yeah.
A bad copy a lot of times, right? And the actors are not, they can't pay as much. It's what, it's Teensus or Teensus. Yeah, that's, if you like watching the Righteous Gemstones, oh man, that show's hilarious. You'd get it. If you know, you know.
Yeah, but it's this battle, though, that they constantly have because culture can have this huge influence and can sway people because it has better answers to the questions. Now, you had a good example there where you're talking about your curiosity just getting shut down completely. Stop asking the questions, Candy. We don't ask questions here. We just believe blindly, is basically what they were telling you.
Mm-hmm.
Believe it, because I said so. That is wrong.
Because this is what's
Evolution is
safe.
wrong.
And
God
it's not,
created it.
and it's not
'cause I
because
said
my
so.
parents were trying to be cruel. They literally thought and still think of a hell and a heaven, and they don't want their kid to go to hell. So it's like, don't believe that. Like, I don't want you to, because they're brainwashed. They naturally will brainwash the children.
Yes. And they want to fight against it completely, you know, to protect you.
Yes.
To keep you
they're
in
doing
there.
it because they love.
And they don't understand why they're doing it. Your parents can't understand why we don't watch these shows. You know, it's because basically it's, well, no, it's unbiblical or it's bad influence on you. Is it really? If I saw The Simpsons, am I going to become a demon? No.
No, but you might start talking
raise
back to your parents. You might say bad words. You might start acting really naughty. It's your behavior might change to be like Bart.
Yeah.
Because you want to be like Bart. That's, I think, more the fear with The Simpsons. And a lot of that stuff, I think, is just the fear that the behavior will change. But shouldn't you be more concerned? I don't know, because then they'd probably say, like, it's giving them ideas.
I mean, it's giving them ideas because it's, what is the naughtiness that is of Bart? He questions authority. He challenges the reality of what they want to project into the world.
Well, and I guess, yeah. And as a parent, this is where parenting gets messy, and parenting is not so easy. It's not just let your kids watch whatever either.
No.
It's not they can't watch anything or let them watch whatever. And it's not, here's a rule that will hold fast through all of we had 5 kids. There wasn't a rule. Very few rules held the same over, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. Each kid needed different like bumpers to kind of help them. If you saw a kid starting to do things like Bart, like on a skateboard that were dangerous, well, yeah, then you have to like set some sort of boundary there to help him, but not this one size fits all kind of parenting.
You think about, an example there, you know, with our boys, teaching them about porn. You know, not teaching them, hey, there's porn, but this is a movie. It's a show. It's not real life. This isn't how things actually work in real life. Understand that if you get caught up in this and observing this, you're going to have an unrealistic idea of what relationships are going to look like, because this isn't how couples interact with each other.
Mm-hmm. And you'll be dissatisfied because your subconscious will be programmed one way, and you will not be able to get, even though I think reality is better.
Yeah.
It's
yeah.
Okay. It's going to mess with their, and it's not to say like some kid who has had experience with it is like messed up for life. That's not the case. No. It's just, it's going to cause problems and you need to retrain the mind. But that's why and also the industry a lot of times is not very good towards the people who are working in it. So they're trying to snare you so they can like sell to you, and you know what I'm saying? So there's problems with it. It's not, I think Christians sometimes think people who deconstruct just because Christians are so like, at least the Christians I grew up around, very fundamentalist, very restrictive of what their children see, hear, eat, even, you know, all of these things.
Mm-hmm.
And so they think because they're this way, anybody who leaves the faith or has never been into the faith does the opposite, because they don't think in this gray area. You know what I'm saying?
It's a whole
and we didn't go to the other side and then start, you know, shoving putting cigarettes in their hands and saying smoke a pack. And you know what I'm saying? We didn't, we still have like just as much. We hope for our children to have good, healthy lives.
That ties into the morality issue, that they think they have the control of morality in the world.
Yeah, they think their idea of what their God said, what morality. Supposedly, when we don't have the original writings.
If you don't believe in their God, then you don't have their moral code. So you're going to do all the opposite things, which is even scarier to think you're only controlling what you do because you fear your God's judgment. The only reason you're not out harming other people right now is because you're afraid of your God's judgment against you. Keep your beliefs, please.
I know that's what they say,
Yeah.
but I also know that that is not true. That is not what's keeping most people, but they say it is.
Yeah.
You know, they really don't want to kill people. Most people don't want to hurt other people. I think that's my belief, and I'm not going to believe otherwise, because to me that's not healthy. A healthy space to live in.
And you realize that once you leave the faith, because you think people outside the faith don't have this moral code.
Yeah, so that they're doing all sorts of like
you
terrible
automatically
things.
think, well, all them atheists are doing this.
Yeah, and they're not. They're actually probably much more moral in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
Than, you know, a Christian or evangelical.
Oh,
There's some atheists some atheists can be super judgmental and, just the same as a Christian, just an opposite, belief system in a God. They can be just as judgy. They can be just as cruel, because that is a human thing that people can be and do. Right.
Mm-hmm.
But there's also atheists that are very loving, more Christ-like than some very, highly respected Christians.
Yeah.
So Christianity doesn't have a corner on morality like they claim to, because we also find that Christians have done more of the violence throughout history.
Yeah.
They, what happens in Christian church, like pedophiles are almost always there's religion involved. Someone is religious. It seems like, does it not?
Yeah.
I bet you there's statistics that would back that up.
Yeah. It's where kids are.
It's rampant in churches.
Anything where you have children and authority figures that are trusted.
And trusted by the parents without being around. Yeah.
Then you're going to have, it's a recipe for.
But yet they would
disaster.
say, no, it's the drag queens who are doing that. And like drag queen story hour, there are adults all over the place. No child is being pulled into a little room and spent hours. That's what grooming is.
Yeah.
Grooming is getting alone with the child, getting to know them. It could happen in a lot of situations where you're by yourself with the child, and the parents trust you.
Yep.
That's not what's going on in.
Yeah. They're like,
in a
Miss Candy, she's so good
hour.
with the kids. She can, go ahead, spend the weekend over at Miss Candy's house. Then you got your dungeon in the basement where. Come over to Miss Candy's tickle basement.
Okay, stop it. No.
Anywho, so, but yeah, this fight against culture, you see it on so many different levels. Movies is a huge example of it. Music, it's a huge example of it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you think about how many you weren't allowed to listen to secular music. Mm-hmm. And if you did, you guys got in trouble. You get swats, you get grounded, whatever it may be, because that's the demon, that's demonic music. It's not. Why? What's so wrong with listening to Cyndi Lauper?
Cyndi Lauper of all people. Were you a big fan, Dan?
But they teach these messages that challenge some of the Christianity.
Challenge authority sometimes, challenge the held
you think
beliefs.
About Lady Gaga and some of her music.
Oh, they definitely
very, very pro LGBTQ. And what's wrong with that message? I think most people would look at it and be like, no, that's a pretty affirming message, and it's positive of acceptance and just let people live.
Not fundamentalist Christians.
But they hate it because that flies in the face of what we believe. We don't like it. It makes us uncomfortable. Don't listen to it. Burn her CDs. They're all going, burn it in hell. Mm-hmm. What was it? That there was that one Christian guy that was analyzing music, and he was doing the Carly Rae Jepsen, here's my number.
Yeah.
Oh, you think they're just giving you his phone number, but no. What's the number? She's talking to the devil, and his number we all know is 666.
Oh my God.
And then call me maybe, like, oh, maybe call me. No, call me maybe. And I think he went into something that was close to a name for Beelzebub or something like that.
Well, okay, they will say that all of those songs created a pathway to what happened. Sam Smith, when he did his, what was that at?
Oh yeah, when he dressed up as
like a red devil or whatever, right? They will say it passed that, and that's got to be satanic because look at that. Okay, first of all, the idea of a red creature with horns and stuff as the devil is completely made up. That's nowhere in the Bible does it talk like that ever. And so this idea is man-made. It's probably based loosely on Dante's Inferno, maybe something else. I don't know if there's a creature like that in that. I've never read it. But I know that hell, a lot of the ideas of hell come from that, which was written 600 AD, so 600 years after Christ. But they'll say, oh, this is what it leads to. But what they're doing, their reaction to people like Cyndi Lauper or Lady Gaga, let's say. I don't know why Cyndi Lauper's in my head. Poor Cyndi Lauper. I was like, Lady Gaga. The reaction of the Christians to that, if they would just let it be, let the culture do what the culture does, and they can do their own, they can have their own culture. But instead, they're trying to control the world through obedience, like obey these rules. And that's first of all, not the gospel at all. Nowhere did Jesus tell you to go, like, change the system for God, right? He just said, go preach the gospel to all the world. Go tell them the good news. But their idea of the good news is living a certain way, behaving, right? And so it's all outward. So they want to push this on society, but society will respond to their hatred or reaction and react in response to that, right? Nobody is doing and that's just how art changes it. Yeah. It does that. That's what art does.
Honestly, that's why Sam Smith does it. Mm-hmm. Little Nas X did his lap dance.
They're trying to get a rise out of them.
They're trying to get a reaction from the Christians because why? Now all of a sudden it's a story.
Yeah. It gets them attention.
Publicity. Well, all of a sudden these artists are getting this free publicity on this, and people are starting to look them up. People's
attention is on them. And the same thing applies to 47 right now with the Pope picture that came out, and the we were just talking about Star Wars, him with the supposed to be a Jedi, but he has the red
with his red rocket.
Which I guess, I don't really know the Star Wars story. I got to be honest. I've never watched the whole story through. Sorry. I did watch one of the newer ones, and I was like, oh, it's a pretty good story. And then they're just so long, with ADHD, it's very, very hard to sit there for that long. I have trouble. But anyways, those pictures, I think they are just done to piss people off. He reposts them. He wants us talking about him. And I think the biggest thing you could do that would really affect him is if people just stop talking about him.
Yeah.
He would go crazy. So it's almost better when we're talking about him, probably, because it kind of keeps him quieter from doing something even worse. It's already, he's doing damage, but
because he needs the attention. He needs the focus. He wants to control the narrative. And when narcissists start losing control of the narrative and the focus,
they can be really dangerous.
There's a potential for them to go batshit.
Yeah. And with him being in this powerful position, it's almost, I don't know. I think that's what keeps him entertained. He needs to be entertained. He needs to be the focus of these silly, but it keeps him, as bad as the things are. I don't think it will be I think it'd be worse if we were quiet. If people were quiet, maybe. I don't know. That's my opinion.
You look at the cabinet meeting where they're all sitting there.
Oh, and they're stroking his ego like crazy. Yeah. Oh my God.
Everything's been wonderful since you took.
Do you think anybody in there is like, this is so stupid?
But if you listen to people that were in his previous administration, they said this is what drove them nuts. The people that didn't do that were fired immediately. And you learned you had to,
if you wanted to keep your job,
carefully construct what you wanted to say to make something actually practical. Because he's that fucking weirdo that just comes off the handle with just absolutely idiotic ideas. Let's go ahead and do that. I want to be Pope.
Well, okay.
Well, okay,
Did you hear
you're
the
not
conversation?
Catholic.
No. Did you hear the conversation where that priest, I think it's a priest, he actually, or cardinal, I don't know, he actually stood up to him and he said, "Do you think this is appropriate?" And the guy, 47's like, it was a joke. I didn't make it myself. I had nothing to do with that. They're like, but it's on the official White House page or account, whatever. It's not your own personal one. And he's like, can't you just take a joke? Catholics loved it. It's just fake news that doesn't like it, And this guy was really pissed. He pushed back quite a bit. And will he get in trouble for doing that? I don't know. Because that takes some guts to just stand up and say, hey, this wasn't okay. It was rude.
Yeah.
This is something that is sacred to us, and you're just trampling it like it's a joke.
Well, on that point, Catholicism is large in America, but it's fairly quiet. Evangelicalism is the loud one. Mormonism is very prevalent. They have a lot of influence.
Yeah, they do.
Worldwide, Catholicism is huge.
Yeah.
You think of Latin America. Anything south of us is pretty much Catholic. A lot of the European states have a very high Catholic influence in them.
Mm-hmm.
So you pissed off the world. Like, you threw out all these tariffs, then you make fun of their system and their pope. You're not building bridges at all here, my dude.
No, and I think he thinks, or that a lot of the people that like him just think like pro America, like we're number one. Everybody's going to want to be us. And I think people
don't act like that while wearing that outfit.
Well, it fit right in. But it's like, yeah, they just think everybody's going to want to be like us. Like it's almost like high schoolish, like we're the football player or whatever, we're the quarterback. Everybody's going to want to be us. And it's really not true. And I think we're not even the freest country.
There was a time where it was kind of a goal. You had a chance. At least I was promised. You never really had a chance. It was always a made-up system. The made-up hope.
Yeah.
But people would flock here because they thought they had a chance. The streets of gold, let's go and get it. And it's not that anymore. There aren't the droves of people flocking over. I mean, there are some, most of the ones that are coming over that we're trying to get rid of are asylum seekers, because
they're fleeing other countries because there's persecution or something.
From actual true persecution, Christians.
Yeah.
From their government there. Their lives are actually in danger.
Yeah.
In their
and
areas.
To save their families, which you would do too. If your life was in danger, you would flee, if you could, to another place to protect your family. You would take them and run. And then you would hope that another country would take you in.
And that's pretty much a large influx of what's coming in, because people are like, there's a lot of Asian countries that are actually pretty nice to be in.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of European countries that are pretty nice to be in. I don't have to worry about a lot of stuff that I would in.
Well, and
and it's a lot more chill in a lot of these other countries and relaxed.
Well, it's a recent thing that I found out that, like, America, we always thought we're the freest country. Some people thought Canada. No, we're not even in the top 10, I don't think, of freest countries. Like, that's a lot. Like, even religious freedom, we're low on religious freedom. Well, obviously now, but it's like we are not the freest country by far. So, like, it's so funny. We've been taught about propaganda and we just think other countries do it. We don't think that our own country's been doing it to us.
Well, you see it out every day.
But a lot of people deny that our own, they'll say it's the other party, but the whole system has been colonization has been one big propaganda scheme to get us to believe in a certain God, that this is the way, this certain God, his writings mean this, but they mean something different to all these different churches. So they don't even have unity on what the message is. And this is how you're supposed to live. This is because we talked about movies and you talked about music, but also clothing, fashion is totally denied in Christianity. Everybody starts to look the same. Yeah, you can get little bit of changes, but the the runway walks, obviously a lot of people won't wear those clothes, but it's an art form, right?
Yeah.
To show these different things. But there are different outfits people get from our ideas, but you weren't allowed to do that in Christianity. If you started dressing the way you want to. I know we had like our second daughter, really independent in how she would dress, and she'd wear whatever clothes, she was just really, she'd always been like that since she was little. I remember her wearing cowboy boots that we got her, and she would just wanted to wear those everywhere. And she had these little red boots too. She wanted to wear them everywhere with her shorts all the time. And I just was like, whatever. I had to give up like trying to get her to change. And she continued with that, her own sense of style as she got older. But in Christianity, there were so many times moms would say stuff to me about, oh, you let her wear that? Oh, that's, even your mom said stuff to me, not negative necessarily, but it was noticed and I had to make a comment about it. You know what I'm saying? And it's just like, because you're not free to express in Christianity. You need to conform to a type of look.
Well, you have the rules and regulations of what it is.
And that's so boring. That's why everybody starts to look the same, There's no independence. I mean, they're branching out a little bit. They'll be like, oh, we let tattooed people come in and we let pierced people come in.
But, I mean, that's another aspect of the fight against culture. Individuality is an enemy of the church.
Well, and the church always ends up giving in eventually.
Because the church is about conformity. Conform to what we want, what we believe. That makes us comfortable. And individuality needs to be dead. Die to self and give everything of self to others.
That's true. But in cults, sometimes when they're high controlled and they're small, you can keep that unity like that. And that's not unity, that's uniformity. Unity and uniformity are two different things.
Yeah.
So you got uniformity there. But as it gets bigger, the harder it gets to manage these people, right? And they start bringing in different outfits and they might slip past you and people saw it and then other people try it and it can become a problem. So staying small helps that. These smaller churches where they can control and then teaching the parents to control their kids at home. But when it gets too big and it just overcomes, the church will give in every single time. Remember way back, of course you can't remember it, but what is it, the 1500s when Galileo lived?
Yeah, I remember.
And he said the earth revolved around the sun, right? That was his big, the church kicked him out. You can't be a part of the church anymore and believe this at the same time. But yet it was true. Yeah. And eventually the church had to get on board with what the culture was actually pushing towards.
But now there's Christians fighting against that again.
I know. That's just insane.
Saying it's not true.
I don't even know what they're saying that could convince people, but it's convinced some people. So they must have something that's pretty convincing, or you're talking to very ignorant people. Yeah. I don't know which. Maybe a little combination. I have no idea. I kind of would like a flat earther to explain it to me, but they would probably annoy the hell out of me.
They would. And
because there'd probably be little reasoning.
Some of them are just so asinine. We're way off tangent, and that's perfect. But I remember one guy talking about, how can the earth be round? He had a globe and he had an airplane. Said, see, if I'm flying around the globe, how am I going to get on the other side of the earth and stay in the airplane? I'm going to fall.
So he doesn't understand gravity or...
Yeah.
What the hell? What's he going to fall into?
Oblivion.
It's like...
That's why we don't.
Oh my God.
Because we're flat.
That's not good reasoning. So, they'd have to come up with something a lot better than that.
This is the stuff they tried to prove it with. There's one with a guy, a big one now, is a helicopter. If I got in a helicopter and I took that helicopter straight up in the air and held it perfectly straight up and down and didn't move and just stayed in that one spot, not going forward or backwards 1 inch, and I stayed there for an hour and I came down, I'd come down in the same exact spot I went up in. It's like, well, you don't understand the physics of atmosphere and everything else.
Because the atmosphere is rotating too, right?
Yeah. there's a reason we're spinning at a great speed, but we stay in the same spot. And when I jump, I don't move.
Like the earth doesn't move under your feet.
I'm not going to stand next to a wall over here, jump straight up, and then get hit by the wall. Unless I've had a few drinks, then I'll probably jump into the wall. But it's because I'm moving with it.
Yeah.
Even though I'm up and down. It's complicated physics to figure that out, but it's atmospheric.
It's anybody who understands that in physics could understand it, right?
Yeah.
But it's just people trying to think. It's just people claiming to know stuff that they really don't know anything about, which we do a lot of on here. We do talk about a lot of things we really don't know much about.
It's all scientifically researched and planned
But we are also open to being told that's bullshit. You're wrong.
Yeah, and that you're willing to learn, which... All right, good job tying us back. That's what the church doesn't want. They don't want people opened up to learning. And that's what, when you get into the culture, you're going to be into.
Because then you're going to critique the faith or test it, and you're going to find it wanting in many places. Yes.
And you're going to find it, well, I was always told this, but you're telling me that's not the case.
And someone will, and the thing is outside of the church, they got some facts to back it up. They got ways to show you that it's wrong.
Yes, the devil is very strong and very wily.
Oh, he's stronger than God.
And cunning, that he can influence people quite easily.
Yeah. You ever notice like how the devil is so much stronger than God in a lot of cases? I'm like, man, this God is so weak. Why are you worshiping him? He's just powerless against this guy. You know, the phrase that we would hear a lot, God's hands are tied. I remember being like,
God has hands?
Who's tying his hands? And like, how are they stronger than him? I don't understand. I always hated that saying.
Yeah. Oh, our little...
Are you leaving?
Prodigals checking out with us.
Yeah.
Yeah. You going to pop in?
You'll be on YouTube. Put your little face in there.
What's going on, you little pebbles?
See, that's our latest one that just moved out.
He just moved out. He's a big boy.
But he's still on break from his move, so he's coming over every night to eat. He's a good guy.
He is.
Calvin, he's been on here before. You'll have to listen to one of the earlier Pebbles. We had a whole episode with him.
He might start his own YouTube channel. Who knows?
He's working on it. So, all right, you heading out?
All right, love you.
All right, love you.
Love you.
Well, he's gonna get on this side too. Love you.
Bye.
Bye.
A little visit from Calvi. So cute, so adorable. But culture, I think we kind of put a bow on this and wrap this one up. The church is so afraid of losing their influence.
Because they would be losing their power.
No, their grip is weak.
Mm-hmm.
And any sort of influential change is going to sway people away from their belief system, away from their control.
Mm-hmm.
And it's seen all the time. Once people step out, what was always said, if you step out from the protective umbrella, God's not going to there to protect you anymore. And awful things are going to happen. So there was this whole idea of you step outside of this boundary and shit's going to go sideways for you, and life's going to go to hell, and you're going to be rock bottom in no time, crying out for Lord again. And then you cross that boundary. And it's like, it's not so bad out here.
Mm-hmm.
And then you start exploring. They lost their control.
You went down the slippery slope.
They tried to build these walls up to prevent you from going out. So they put up a wall of Star Wars is demonic. It's evil. It's witchcraft.
Don't go to it. Don't
Harry
read this
Potter
book. Don't.
Is witchcraft.
Yeah.
Lady Gaga is demon wearing meat dresses. You know, Kiss the band, Knights in Satan's Service, singing about wanting to rock and roll all night and party all of the day. All these people are horrible influences on everything. Don't go out when they build up these fake walls all around. It's a fear.
Mm-hmm.
And once you get the courage to step across that wall, you're like, there ain't much to fear out here.
Well, you're like...
It's actually kind of pleasant. And people are actually kind of nice.
Yeah, there's a lot to enjoy. Is there still some things that... I honestly feel like most of the stuff that is scary is within toxic religious situations a lot of times. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Oh, here.
Or that things that are like religion in that there's a power dynamic going on. So it could happen in other.
A good picture of this would be the ending of the Truman Show, where he finally figured out, because his whole life was built on fear.
Mm-hmm.
So when he was starting to question, they had to make sure he stayed in his little island town. So they caused a trauma where his dad went out to sea and drowned in front of him. Drowned. Scared him forever. You know, everything around him. He had pictures of planes getting struck by lightning. Don't travel, it's not safe.
Mm-hmm.
So all the subconscious stuff that he's seeing and picking up that he's not realizing is stepping off of my island home is dangerous. But then questions started arising in him and a curiosity. And at the end of the scene, it was like, don't go out there. It's not safe. The world's dangerous. It's scary. You
There's
have protection
bad guys trying to get you all over the place. Yeah.
We'll take care of you in here and provide for you and everything. And then he stepped out and was like, this is the world. I get to explore it.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, there's tough stuff out there, but there's also a lot of great stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what Christian faith is. It's the Truman Show, trying to keep you inside the studio.
Yeah, it definitely is that.
And there's a whole lot outside of the studio. Some of it's scary and dangerous. Most of it's not.
Yeah. I mean, there's just so much to explore.
Yeah.
To make life enjoyable. Like, just, you know, I think sometimes we spent all those years as evangelicals looking for a life after death. So not really engaging in the present life as much as we could have. And I find myself struggling with that still today when I'm not paying attention, because I'll go back to that old programming because I'm still reprogramming it, but I'll do it with everything with 47. You know, there's just so much unknowns and it's scary. And so what your subconscious is going to try to go back to the familiar, and the familiar is someone's going to rescue. And you're going to get on the other side of this. Instead of like, just engage right now. Surrender to what's going on and do what you can to push back where you need to. You know what I'm saying? But like, accept the situation we're in and then do what you can.
Yeah.
Instead of like holding your breath and waiting for life to start. Just start life, you know, regardless of what that looks like. It might just be you enjoying really being in the present moment instead of scared of everything. I think 47 has caused a lot of that fear to flare back up that was there and that I thought I was not going to deal with anymore. No, it's, and now it's at a federal level. You know what I'm saying? Kind of this threat of going back in a system that I really felt oppressed in. But I'm not going to go back in it, you know, but that's, that threat on the nervous system is difficult. So if you're feeling that, it's normal. But you also have to consciously get into the present moment as much as you can. And really, you should be trying to enjoy life as much as possible.
It's a lot of life to live.
Yeah.
So live it. So, all right. Well, check out our socials and all that good stuff. DannyCan.com. You can find all the links to that. Get in there and check it out. Everything on there for Candy too is on there with her hypnotherapy. You can get lessons and all that. Her blog, her Substack. Subscribe to that. She'd appreciate that greatly. And also YouTube. If you go to YouTube, you can find us on there. See our shiny faces. Meet Calvin. See what he looks like. And he's single, ladies. So check that out. Give us a like. Smash that subscribe. And also one last thing. Give us 5 stars. It's the culture calling you. Give us the 5 stars. The Christian church wants you to give us a 1 star. 5 stars is the culture calling you, informing you. So give us the 5 stars, help push us out and all that. And just remember one thing.
Listen to us.
Because we're cultured. And we have some ideas
We're not
and answers for you. Because we're well researched and scientific in everything we say. as seen in this episode, in which the idea for it came up to me 7 hours ago while I was on a mower listening to a podcast. Well researched, well planned out.
That's us.
Drop the stones.
Bye.
Bye.